The word harem comes from the Arabic word haram and means a place where no one is allowed to enter. The harem was the private and forbidden living space of the Sultan, the mother Sultan, the Sultan's wives, children, sisters, and brothers, servants, concubines, and the eunuchs, who were the protectors of the harem. The harem consists of a series of buildings and structures, connected through hallways and courtyards. Every service team and hierarchical group residing in the harem had its own living space clustered around a courtyard. Enderun, the men who will serve the palace and the state, harem, on the other hand, was an educational institution for the upbringing of women. The first structures in the Topkapi Palace Harem chamber were built in the 15th century, during the reign of Mehmet, the Conqueror, on the side of the Golden Road. In the harem, which expanded with the additions made during each sultan's period, today there are approximately 300 rooms, 9 baths, 2 mosques, a hospital, a laundry room and many wards. The harem was completely closed to the outside. The interior of the harem is dim as the walls are quite high for privacy concerns. The halberdiers was established in the 15th century to clear the way for the army during campaigns, and to cut down trees that prevented progress. Because of the forelock hanging from both sides of their heads, they were called Tressed Halberdiers. Tressed Halberdiers, a military unit that was the most special protection of the Sultan and the harem, took orders only from the Sultan, not from the Janissary masters. It was not possible to reach the harem without passing Tressed Halberdiers. These halberdiers, who were about 120 to 200, were responsible for cleaning of harem, and transporting wood for their heating, transporting food, safe and fast communication of the Sultan, transporting the throne in ceremonies, transporting the Sultan and his family's funerals. Their mosques and dormitories were independent of the harem. At night, the beds were laid in the dormitory, where they slept. They were warmed up by the fireplace in the ward. They also spent their free time in the pipe room. Adjacent to the archaeological museum is the Harem Hospital. The most common disease was tuberculosis because the palace is very cold. The Sultan, dressed in disguise, was going down the big mount gate to go out and mingle with the people. In this way, he could check his people secretly, inspect and see how well the state officials were working. A few officials followed the Sultan from afar, secretly. For ceremonies, the Sultan used the official gate. The patterned road, paved with small stones in the harem, was the path for the Sultan on horseback. One of these roads starts from the cart's door and the other from the exit of the harem. The horse's foot slides on flat stones. These stones were laid in this way so that the horse's feet would not slip. The Sultan could go as far as the door to his mother's courtyard. This road ended with the mount stone there. Right next to the mount, there is the door to the Sultan's privy room. In the early period of the Ottoman Empire, there was no harem organization. Until Sultan Murad II, 1421–1451, the Ottoman sultans were marrying either the girls in their own circle, or the daughters of other principalities and kingdoms for diplomatic reasons. However, with Mehmet the Conqueror, the Ottoman dynasty did not want any family other than themselves to become stronger. For this reason, they preferred to be with foreign origin concubines, who had no roots or families. Thus, the harem became a place that trained educated wives for the sultan, the prince and the state dignitaries. The harem has three main gates: Kushane Gate, opening to Enderan, Arabalar, Carts, Gate, main gate in the direction of the Golden Horn. The main entrance of the harem is where now the toll booths are. It's called Gate of Carts. The purpose of use of the Gate of Carts is that the mother, the favorites, the daughters and sisters of the Sultan got into the cart through this door to go to the city center or other places. While the women entered the cart, curtains were drawn in front of the door. The return to the harem was again through this gate. This tower was considered as a symbol that the Ottoman Sultan would rule all his people with justice. There is a door leading to the caged place, where the Sultan can watch the Imperial Council meetings from inside the harem. The Sultan would come here on his horse, get off the mount, and go to that room. The Black Eunuchs were recruited from Africa and castrated. They acted as a buffer between the women's world and the outside world. Their main duties were to keep watch at the gates of the harem, to control the entrances and exits, to bring food from the kitchen, to accompany the carts, and not to let anyone in from the outside. The horse block in front of the mosque served the Sultan to mount his horse, and the benches were for the guards. On the left is the small mosque of the Black Eunuchs. You can see the most beautiful examples of Turkish tiles, decorations and architectural works in the harem. There are verses, narrations and important words from the Quran on the walls and above the doors. The main entrance separates the harem, in which the family and the concubines of the Sultan resided, from the courtyard of the eunuchs. The door leads out into the sanctuary, to which the three main sections of the harem are connected. The section where the women lived in the harem was entered through the concubines' passage. The black eunuchs used to bring food to the harem and leave it on the marble counters in this corridor. After the corridor, the first place is the Kalfa's area. Kalfa means head of female servants. Kalfa was one of the young girls who are always on their heads. Like the Endran school, which trained administrators for the Ottoman state organization, the harem was an educational institution, as well as a place of pleasure and entertainment. The girls here got a very serious education for 7 to 9 years and learned Turkish, tidy speech, to read and write, religious knowledge, sewing, embroidery, palace customs, ceremony, literature, as well as music, dance and art according to their abilities. During this training, there was a possibility that they could meet with the Sultan, so the concubines had to be knowledgeable enough to converse in the presence of the Sultan. There were calligraphers and poets, like Hurrem Sultan, thus Roxolana, among them. At the end of this training, some of them did not want to get married and wanted to stay and teach here. They became Kalfa, and masters. At the end of this, they would continue to serve here by being paid. Those who wanted to marry were given a dowry and married to one of the notables of the state. Concubines, which means female slaves, came to the Sultan as war booty in the first years of the Ottoman Empire. When the conquests ended, slaves were brought from slave traders, who were kidnapped and sold in slave markets. These girls were mostly non-Muslim girls of Balkan countries, Georgian, Circassian, or Russian origin. Most of the girls had never even seen the Sultan in their lives. Among these girls, the smartest and most beautiful girls of 10 to 12 to be presented to the Sultan were selected and specially trained. It should not be forgotten that harem, concubine, and other similar practices in the Ottoman Empire were created by tradition, and are definitely not based on the Quran. The management of the harem belonged to the mother of the Sultan. The Sultan's mother's apartment consists of 3 sections, one with a high domed sofa, a small bedroom and a prayer room. Although the Quran does not prohibit painting and sculpture, it is not possible to see a painting or sculpture of a living creature in the harem, as these are prohibited by tradition. Due to the importance Islam gives to cleanliness, the bath has a very important place in Ottoman culture. The pipe system on the wall shows how the heating was done at that time. Both the Sultan's mother and the Sultan's bathroom's golden latticework was to protect the bathing Sultan or his mother from murder attempts. The Sultan's mother's bath and the Sultan's bath are connected to each other by a corridor. The Sultan's bath was built by the master architect Sinan, in the order of Suleiman the Magnificent. The bath is heated by the heating system under the marble base, which is similar to the Roman baths in the heating system. This heating system continues until the Imperial Hall. The Sultan was bathing in the gilded iron caged section. Today, during the restoration of the Sultan's Hammam, the places of the hot water and cold water mains pipes inside the wall were left visible to the visitors. The Imperial Hall is the most ostentatious and largest detached room of the harem. It is the ceremonial and reception hall of the Sultan. Dynasty weddings and birth ceremonies were held here. Here the Sultan received his confidants, guests, his mother, his first wife, Haseki, consorts, and his children. It has the largest dome in the palace. In the Imperial Hall, there is a baldachin where the Sultan's throne is placed. The gallery was occupied by the consorts of the Sultan, headed by the Sultan's mother. The upper floor of the gallery was used by female musicians from the harem. Entertainments, paying of homage during religious festivals, and wedding ceremonies took place here, in the presence of the members of the dynasty. A secret door behind a mirror allowed the Sultan a safe passage. One door admits to the Sultan's mother's apartments, another to the Sultan's bath. Under the Imperial Hall, there were underground channels for heating as in the bath. This privy chamber was built by the master architect Sinan in 1579 by order of Sultan Murad III. The building was used as the Sultan's private office and official reception hall for centuries. It has a large indoor pool underneath. The building covered with blue tiles to the left of the place opening to the paved courtyard was the twin pavilions, apartments of the Crown Prince. When the favorites became pregnant, they assumed the title and powers of the official consort of the Sultan. The courtyard of the favorites overlooks a large pool and the boxwood garden. The masjid in the Golden Road corridor was built for the mother of the Sultan, the Sultan's daughters and senior harem women for worship. The Golden Road is a 46-meter road. It is not known exactly why this place is called the Golden Road. It is believed that the prince used to pass this way to sit on the throne. In the meantime, it was called the Golden Road because he sprinkled gold to the women who lined up on both sides. Kushane, Aviary, kitchen was established to give banquets to the Sultan and high-ranking members of the dynasty, on special days or nights. This kitchen was used to go together when the Sultan went hunting. In the revolt on July 28, 1808, Cevri Kalfa saved Prince Mehmed II from execution. Cevri Kalfa managed to get the prince into her room, and managed to save the prince from their hands, by pouring the ashes from the braziers on the rebels. Paved courtyard of Sultan's mother was the center of the Ottoman dynasty, and especially the women of the upper class of the harem for centuries. The buildings on the wing of this courtyard along the Golden Road are thought to have been built in the 15th century, and the first quarter of the 16th century. With the construction of the Sultan's apartment and bath in the 16th century, this section became an inner courtyard. Until the late 19th century, there had been a small inner court in this corner of the Endron courtyard. This court led through the Aviary gate into the harem. Today this is the gate from which the visitors exit from the harem. Birds were fed and trained in the aviary. They also ate some of them at feasts and on special days.